Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Hello and welcome to Creative GHETTOS, the show that explores various creative industries and profiles the Africans who push them forward. Each week I spend 30 minutes unveiling excellent and inspiring individuals within creative industries, including but not limited to fine and contemporary art, architecture, design, food, film and literature. My name is Kwane Lukunene. Thank you for joining me right here on brandlive.co.za. I recently had the honor of speaking at length with Mesai Haileleul, who together with Rakeb Sile founded the groundbreaking Ethiopian art gallery, GHETTOS Fine Art. The duo has been instrumental in connecting the globe with works by artists from the Horn of Africa and its diaspora. The recent F&B Joburg Art Fair at the Sandton Convention Centre served as mine and Mesai's meeting ground. Mesai. That's yes. Okay. GHETTOS Fine Art is really a first of its kind in Ethiopia. What inspired the decision to open up the space?
Myself and my co-founder, my business partner, her name is Rakeb Sile. We have been working together kind of informally prior to opening the gallery in January 2016. In London, we've been kind of like trying to see how we can formalize this journey that we started, about 6-7 years ago, working with Ethiopian artists. She comes with a different background, I come with a different background, but yet we were both passionate about having a space that can function properly as a proper gallery, and we were debating whether to put this, whether we should do it in Addis, whether we should do it in London or my hometown Los Angeles. So eventually, we decided that it's important for us to be based in Addis because that's where the majority of the artists that we'll be working with, that's where they went to school, that's where they grew up, that's where they live. So it made perfect sense, for us to be in Addis, and I was volunteered, to uproot myself, and after 40 years, I moved to Ethiopia, and we set up Addis Fine Art Gallery so that artists can have a proper relationship with a gallery that was put in place so that they can have this bridge between Addis and the outside art world. And that was really important for us because without having a gallery in Addis that functioned like a proper gallery, meaning that, going to the fairs, collaborating with other galleries or collaborating with other museums, it just became very difficult for a lot of Ethiopian artists who were based in Ethiopia because there was no link, there was no bridge for them to, step on and be a part of the international art community and art market and all that.
That's very interesting, and because I wanted to know about the response that you got from artists when GHETTOS Fine Art first opened. The response that you got from artists and from the general public is then, are you beginning to see a culture where people are gravitating towards appreciating art in the sense of buying and just learning more about art from an Ethiopian perspective?
That's an excellent question, because when we opened, obviously there's a formal arrangement between the gallery and the artist. There's an agreement, there's a contract. All that was new. And there was some resistance, there was some uneasiness, there was some curiosity. But I've been in this business, for now, 25 years. And I used to own a gallery in Los Angeles. So I have built a wonderful relationship with a lot of Ethiopian artists, but never really worked in a very formal, the kind of agreements that's in place between the gallery and artists. I didn't do that before. Now we are asking the artists, to come to us. we tell them, look, this is what we can do for you, and in order for us to do that, we need to have formal agreements, contracts have to be signed, in a number of years. So that was, it scares some artists, because now they felt like, oh my God, I'm going to be in a box. I can't step out of this. These guys are locked. They're going to lock me in. This agreement.
What a nightmare for a creative.
Tell me about it. So we had to overcome, some of these, resistance and challenges, that we encountered. But to their credit, immediately quite a few of them, were willing to work with us, and that has been quite appealing now to a lot of artists, because they realize that, now I don't have to deal with finding the customers to buy from me. I don't need to call so-and-so and so-and-so to come to the studio, my studio, to come and have a look at my work. I don't have to do none of that. The gallery now is going to be responsible for all that for me, so that I can focus on my work. This is where my passion is. I'll just, work on that. So that was new, and after almost 3 years, we've reached a point where what we're doing and our method of conducting our business is getting a lot of acceptance, and we are now attracting a lot of artists to come to us. We hardly need to go out there and look for artists, to talk to and sign with us, because now a lot of them see what we've done with our artists, so they come to us. And as far as people looking at us, initially, and where we set up the gallery was right in the middle of Bole. It's a very, commercial part of Addis. That's where a lot of the happenings are going on. A lot of, the hotels, the tourists. This is the area that's considered as the new downtown of Addis. So being in there, it's great, but cost-wise for us was also, very risky. I'll be frank with you. The space that we have cost us to run it just as much as what it used to cost me to run a space in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And, Addis is pretty expensive. So a lot of people were wishing us goodwill, but they were also concerned that, we might not be able to meet, the financial challenges. We did overcome that. Now we are at a point where a lot of people come to the gallery, they hear about it. When we have openings, up to 200 people show up. And we have created a space that is now considered as a very important art space, cultural space in Addis Ababa. And we're very, very, very happy and very proud of what we have achieved.
So, as far as I am understanding the story of art in Ethiopia, it seems as if the country is really an emerging market for art. What are some of the institutions that are investing in the arts right now?
Well, in all honesty, I know I get myself in trouble sometimes when I speak about, some institutions. Governmental institutions, to be honest with you, the arts are not a priority. For them it's development. Let's build bridges, dams, roads, hospitals, schools, and I get it, and I understand. Ethiopia is a developing country. It means it doesn't have all the means, to do all the things that that needs to be done. So the arts, is considered as a luxury. So governmental institutions. Now, we have a new prime minister, a new government, and they have recognized the importance of the arts, and I sense that there is a desire on their part, to support. But there's a great school, there's a great art school that opened in the mid-50s, and it has produced some amazing talents. And because of that, there are few Ethiopians that have done really well, but their number is very insignificant when you compare, with the whole artistic community's population in Ethiopia. We're still a long ways to go, and what I'm sensing now is, there's galleries that are looking at us. And seeing if maybe this is something that can be replicated. There are galleries in Ethiopia. Don't get me wrong. And they've done a marvelous job. To be honest with you, with so little, they have been able to help a lot of artists, and some of those artists are working with us, today. So, institution-wise, there's a lot of challenges. Government, maybe, hopefully down the road, but other than that, you don't have, say, corporates, who are willing, to support, the art community. It's not enough, to be honest with you. I don't mean to, put down, the effort that has been done so far, but it's not enough, because we're a very big country. There's so much to do.
All right. So artists' work speak a lot to the climate of the countries that they're from or they live in. What are the most popular subjects that Ethiopian artists focus on?
I mean, I can tell you briefly that, the history of Ethiopian art, originates, from the churches. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church especially has influenced for a long time how artists, created their works. The church paintings that have been there for hundreds of years are very iconic, and these images are still being reflected in some of the contemporary works that you see today in Ethiopia. But by and large, Ethiopian artists, just like any other country, you see them. You see in their works, subjects that are very Ethiopian. It might be, a market scene. It might be beautiful landscapes, or just the different people that you find, the different ethnic groups that you find all over Ethiopia. So that, until recently, was really what you saw a lot, and a lot of it was geared, to the tourist market. But now, there's a lot of young Ethiopian artists that are a lot more inquisitive. They have access to the internet, so they see, what's going on outside of Ethiopia, and that has inspired, a lot of young Ethiopians to come up, with works that, you look at it, it doesn't have any specific locations, meaning that, the work could have been done by a Chinese artist, but it could have been a Nigerian artist, or it could have been an American artist. But the work looks great in most cases, and it has, there's an opportunity now for artists to be a lot more expressive. They're not confined in this Ethiocentric kind of representation of works that you saw a lot in the past. That's no longer the case.
Now tell me more about the artists that you've brought to the FNB Joburg Art Fair.
This particular fair, we brought works by 4 Ethiopian artists. I can start with the painter that has her work has really connected with a large South African audience. Her name is Mary Kokop, and every time we bring her work, it's done really well. She does a lot of pieces that are associated with, fertility and birth, and a lot of, women issues. And I mean, I can go into details, but that's that's one artist that we're very proud of, to show her work here because it has connected with South Africans. And then the second person his name is Addis Gazahin. This is his second time we're showing his work here. And Addis has done really well in South Africa, in Ethiopia, and outside of the continent. He has a lot of followers now, and pieces that we bring, we sell. He works mostly on these beautiful buildings that he has seen through his life in Ethiopia. And what he does is, he'll take bits and pieces of these buildings and he'll compose them in a way that he's building these towers. A lot of his work, when you look at it, or the title is Floating Tower, this, and that. And also this time, we brought a specific piece that he titled, Joburg Joburg Floating Tower, because a year ago when he left for the first time, Ethiopia to come and visit and be a part of this fair, that was his first time. So he drove around with some friends, and surprise, surprise, he saw this iconic, building.
What is it about towers that gives him a tick?
Well, it's not only just their physical appearances, but also the life that's lived in these towers, in these buildings. There's a lot of history among those people who live in these towers, a lot of relationships. It could be, how, they celebrate, particular holidays, how they handle, death in families, and the interaction between the communities, in these towers has fascinated Addis. So he wanted to, express it in a way that when you look at them visually, when you look at them, physically, and when you look at them, how they're constructed, they look incredibly beautiful. And he wants to show that, these people who've lived in these conditions, they have a life, a very dignified life that might not be seen when an outsider comes and have a look at them. So he has, there's a lot of details that goes into his work. It's not only just, acrylic on canvas. There's images that he collects from news magazines. It could be Time, it could be Newsweek. And those images, help him formulate, the construction of these towers. So he'll paste those papers on the canvas. It's not really the content, it's just the color, the shape, the form. That's on these newspaper articles that allows him to compose these buildings the way he wants to. And when you look at them, I think they're beautiful.
They really are. Okay, and then just the last question. There is a clear focus on African art coming from the rest of the world. What measures do you think we can be put in place to protect the intellectual property of African artists now, with this new craze of African art being at the forefront of the industry?
Before I answer that question, allow me, please. There's a couple of people that I did not mention, and that's Tadessa Mesfin, who does these. His signature work has all been these market women that he have painted in a way that they are very regal, they are very proud. And he's seen a lot of markets throughout the country, but he wants to represent them in a way that, when you look at them, they're a very dignified, individuals, and these are all women that you see in his works, and he wants to make sure that it's not about what they're selling, and it's not how they might be, looked at and perceived, when people look at them. He wants to show that these women are very strong women, they're capable of, supporting their family, they have friends, and it's a subject that he refers to as, pillars of life. They might be, selling things in the market, but they're a very important part of our social fabrics. And then we have a young lady.
What's his name again?
His name is Taddesa Masfan. And then there's a young lady, her name is Jerusalem Jirgena, and she, this particular two pieces that you see were photos she took in Harar. Harar is a very important Islamic city in Ethiopia, and it means, Harar means, city of saints. And she just wants to show, the daily activities of these women in this really wonderful, beautiful, enclosed city. There's a wall that goes around this city. I mean, it's a very special place in Ethiopia, to be honest with you. When you go there, the vibrancy of the society, it's just very colorful. 80 plus mosque. It's not a large place, it's not a large city, but it's incredibly beautiful, and it's reflected in our work.
They're asking you.
Resume. All right, so the final question, we're back at it. There's an undeniable focus on African art throughout the world. It being seen as being on the leading edge of the arts right now. How do you think? What systems do you think can be put in place so that African artists' works are protected and their intellectual property is protected?
Well, this is a very difficult question, frankly. We as gallerists, and myself and my partner and everybody else, especially that has been working with artists, from this continent, we're very happy to see this trend. The fact that what is being produced on this continent, or by artists who are African origin, who live in Europe and America and whatnot, their work is now being recognized as an important part of this international art, you want to call it movement or market and so on. But the key here is how do we make sure that these practitioners not only get the credit they deserve, but long term, how do we maintain the real ownership of these incredible works that are being produced by these artists? So I don't know. I mean, there's just so much movement, so many things happening at the same time. It is really a very challenging period for those who want to make sure that we have full ownership of these incredible artworks that are being produced. So, do the galleries have a responsibility? Yes, of course. Do the museums have responsibility? I certainly believe so. Do the collectors have responsibilities, as far as, making sure that, these artists, at the end of the day, not only producing works that they're selling today maybe for a nominal fee or maybe for a few $1,000s, and yet 10 years from now, 20 years from now, these works are going to sell for a lot of money. So how do you find a way to make sure that there's a fair distribution of compensation? How do you do that? I'll be honest with you, I'm in no position to tell you exactly this needs to happen, and that way, we'll have a perfect ecosystem. I don't know. At this moment, I really don't know, how we can organize ourselves that, at the end, that everybody gets something fair out of this.
And that's it. That's the end of our show. I must just say that this conversation really shows just how much excellent ideas, products and even people exist on the continent, and all we need to do is unearth or shine a light on what is already here so that we can engage better, then get on with the business of creating more wonderful opportunities for ourselves and others. And you can visit Addis Fine Art in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, or its project space in London. Alternatively, you can follow the gallery's Instagram page at Addis Fine Art. To find out more about the Africans who drive various creative industries forward, make sure to follow Creative Ghettos on Instagram at Creative Ghettos. My name is Gwanele Kunene. Join me again next week, Friday, from 2 to 2:30 p.m. for another impactful show. Bye for now.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.